Hi everyone, it's Dr. Tisha here for today's Wellness Wednesdays. And today we are speaking to our college-bound seniors about, from a health perspective, what are the things that you need to know to be prepared to have a healthy college experience. And it feels like ages ago that I was preparing for that college experience. And now fast forward as a medical doctor, looking back, I can think about some things that could have gone much differently and really wrong. And I would like to help prepare these new college-bound students for these potential experiences, as well as if you're a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, and you know someone from the class of 2017 that's heading off to college, please share this with them or share what you have learned today with them. So hopefully that you can keep them safe and healthy for the 4 years to come so that they can focus on their academics and not be derailed by things that can be easily avoided or handled if these issues come up. So what I came up with my list of 7 things you need to do, know, or prepare for college. So the first thing is insurance. So when I went off to college, I stayed at home at the University of Miami. I'm from Miami. So I just stayed on my parents' health insurance. I had no issues. If I needed a doctor, I could go to my doctor that I had. However, for students that are going out of state or in a different city in the same state, look at your insurance coverage and see if that coverage will extend to another state, because oftentimes if things come up, you won't be able to access your parents' insurance the same way you would if you were in the same state. And a lot of times the only thing that you have access to in another state are emergency benefits. So what happens if you need a refill on your asthma inhaler or a refill on your acne medication? Well, you can exercise other options like student health, but how great would it be to make sure that you have adequate coverage? One option, which most colleges and universities will let you know up front, is that there may be an insurance package through the college or university that you can subscribe to. So don't wait until you get to college to see if that insurance package is a good fit for you, especially if you have medical issues or concerns. Find out beforehand so that you can make sure that you have adequate coverage. And you want to be able to access primary care if you need it, urgent care if you need it, telemedicine, and emergency care. So not only do I have insurance, but what type of coverage and benefits will be extended to me while I am in the state that I'm going to college in. So that's number 1, be covered. Number 2, vaccinations. So if you have not gotten a checkup prior to starting college, it's really important. Schedule a visit now with your pediatrician, because they're going to be slammed by the time it's time for you to go back to school, with kids of all ages trying to get vaccines, sports physicals, different things like that. So the sooner that you can get that visit scheduled, the better, because there are vaccinations that you should have before you go to college. So there are mandatory vaccinations like meningitis that the school probably already told you about. Like, you cannot stay on campus if you don't have a meningitis vaccine at most schools, which is for the protection of everyone. If you're staying off campus, then you may not have to worry about that. Your tetanus vaccine. So most people get a tetanus vaccine somewhere in the 10 to 12 age range. You need it every 10 years. So you may or may not be due for a booster with your tetanus before you go to school. So what is tetanus? It is, if you step on a rusty nail, you can get a really horrible disease that can kill you. So you might not be due for it until 20, but not everyone starts college at age 18. So if you took some time off before starting and you need this, make sure that you look at your records, have those vaccination records ready so that you can give a copy to the Student Health Center. Thank you, Kelly, Nat, Greg, Hala, Tony, for joining in and Please, and thank you for the feedback. Please share as well if you find it helpful. So the Tdap or tetanus vaccine is not mandatory, but you definitely want to get that. One of our docs who is emergency medicine physician added on there, make sure you have your titers for your measles, mumps, and rubella. Yes, we often take for granted that everyone has these, but make sure that you get checked. What is a titer anyway? It's a blood draw where we can look at your blood. Say mom says, I can't find your vaccine records. I have no idea. Maybe you're military. Maybe you moved around a lot and you don't have access. Maybe you're an international student coming from another country where those vaccines may or may not have been required. We can check your blood and see, here's everything that you had. And if you haven't had it, we can make sure that you get it or get a booster so that you have enough of it. Because vaccines, the reason they're given on a schedule is because some of them wear off over time. So just because you had it doesn't mean you completed the course. Maybe you got 2 out of the 3 shots required, and your blood level will tell us for sure if you have the appropriate amount in your blood to protect you from getting the actual disease. The last one I want to talk about is HPV, or the disease that causes both genital warts and can be the precursor to cervical cancer. And we give this vaccine in both ladies, girls, and boys. And this is a vaccine that can protect them once they become sexually active. Well, this is the hard part, right, for most parents. And if you're a student watching this, it may be the hard part for you, because how do you say to your parent, hey, I may want this HPV vaccine? Does it mean you're saying you're having sex? No. I, as a family medicine physician, primary care provider, I have this discussion all the time with parents. And it's not easy to, think about you being out there on your own for them. They don't want to address this, but this is something that can protect your long-term health. Now, there are people who are pro this vaccine and against. I am not making this decision for you, nor am I telling you that you have to get this vaccine. But I will say, if I had a daughter or a son, they would get it. And you have to have that conversation and dialogue with your parents and your doctor, or if you're a parent watching this, with your child and the pediatrician, to make sure they get protected, not because they are having sex, but because at some point over the next 4 years they might. And you don't want to wait until it happens to get that protection. And the truth of the matter is, even if you stay a virgin until you're married, still get the vaccine. Guess what? Maybe your partner, your future spouse, the husband that you're going to meet in college didn't have the same abstinence that you did, which means they could be exposed to HPV and then give it to you, even though you did everything right. So let's assume that all of our daughters are angels and they'll never have sex for the next 4 years. You still need to get the vaccine. But the question I usually pose to parents when they say, well, my daughter is not sexually active, I say, well, when did you first have sex? Right? And when we start putting it in that perspective, oh yeah, I did have sex, that sophomore, freshman year, or shoot, I had sex before I went to college. When you start thinking about it in that mindset, we just have to, for moms, dads, just say, there's some things we have to let go and do this for their protection. Which leads me to the third thing that you want to talk about, which is, again, that hard, exactly. One of our docs says, if you can prevent cancer, why wouldn't you? Absolutely. I agree 100%. It's a needle. Take the shot, prevent it so that you don't have to deal with that when you're 40 or 50, which is when we start diagnosing these things usually, and sometimes even earlier. Third thing you need to have a healthy college experience is birth control and condoms. When my younger siblings, who are much younger, 8 years younger, 11 years younger, went off to college, I gave them condoms. They said, well, I don't need this. I don't care. You'll have them in case you need them. I was not promoting sex, but I wanted even my brothers to know that it was important to me that if they were in that situation and circumstance, that they would be responsible. I don't want them, in the heat of the moment, just going with whatever the other person says, or thinking, oh, well, using an old expired condom, or not even knowing how to use a condom. Like, does your child know how to use a condom? Maybe you don't want to be the one to teach them that, but God forbid that they're in that situation. They have no idea what to do, and suddenly, the condom breaks. Now you have an unplanned, unwanted pregnancy or STD. I remember people leaving college because they got pregnant and they couldn't afford to stay, or for whatever reason their parents decided they couldn't stay. So condoms and birth control. Just remember, giving your child or discussing condoms and discussing birth control does not mean that you're telling them to have sex. It's not means you're promoting sex. It's you accepting that they, or if it's you may be in a situation over the next 4 years where it could happen, okay? It would be like saying, oh, let me only have seatbelts in cars that I know are going to get in car accidents. Well, we don't do that, right? We put on our seatbelt every time. We always have the seatbelt there. So it's there just in case as a safety. If it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But don't try to ignore or let them go figure it out on their own or go through their friends when you can just have that conversation and just say, just in case, And if you're watching this and you're going off to college, just go buy them. It does not hurt in case it happens. And don't go tell your parents, well, I got these condoms because Dr. Rowe told me. Just go buy them. Go have the conversation with your parents first and then go buy them. Okay. 4, you want to make sure for a healthy college experience, you have access to doctors. So what do you mean access to doctors? Doesn't every school have a student health center? Oh, good one. Dr. Smith, let me just rewind there because I think this is important and I don't want to neglect it. Is date rape is a serious issue in college, as well as balanced eating plan and exercise. So yes, we're going to talk about, I didn't have date rate on there, so thank you for throwing that in, but we were going to talk about safety. And so that definitely is a safety issue, and the balanced eating plan and exercise, that's what I'm passionate about, as well as Dr. Smith, who is one of my partners. So we'll talk about that as well. And so Dr. Smith said birth control also. So yes, I said birth control or condoms, have both. Do not use Plan B as birth control. And if you neglect this conversation with your parents or with your child, that is very likely what may happen. Okay, and Plan B does not prevent or protect from STDs. Then we want to talk about having access to physicians. So where do you go if something happens, whether you have a severe headache or a cold or a flu or anything, any of the many things that can happen? One, during regular business hours, your school probably has a student health center. That's a great place to go. If it's around exam time, it will probably be packed, because when you're stressed and sleep deprived, your immune system doesn't work as well and everybody gets sick, and it will happen. So the student health center is packed. You have a final to study for. You're waiting in there for hours. The other thing you could possibly do is go to urgent care. Urgent care, if it's flu season, it's probably going to be packed. There will probably be a ton of people there, and who knows if your insurance is even going to cover it. And if they do, it may be that $100 that you were planning to use for food or gas for the week. Instead, you'll have to use it for that copay. Third option, call your pediatrician. Hey, Jack or Jill, they're away at college. Can you call this in? The pediatrician should not be calling it in unless your pediatrician is using telemedicine, which is what I do, and then they could do a virtual visit for you and handle that medical problem or issue through the computer. And that is what I would, of course, advocate for and recommend, being that I'm a telemedicine doctor. You get your needs taken care of, but you get it taken care of by a doctor that knows you. Last but not least, emergency room. You break a leg, alcohol toxicity, anything crazy like that that happens. You're having trouble breathing, something more serious. Then you definitely want to know beforehand where is the closest emergency center. Don't wait until something happens to know where that is. So between you and your parents, or you and your child, sit down and have a map. If something happens, this is how we are going to handle this issue. So that is the fourth thing I recommend. The fifth thing is mental health awareness and prep, because as in college, I worked. I always worked, starting with my second semester freshman year throughout college. And one of my job responsibilities is I worked for the campus safety. And I would see the people, I worked overnight many times, that came in at night. And I also would hear about things that other people didn't hear about and the campus did not publicize, like the student that jumped off the building trying to commit suicide. We don't want that to be you, and we don't want it to be your child. So before you go to college, you need to have this conversation about depression, anxiety, things that often can be triggered by stress, because college is a stressful time. What are some of the things that you can do to screen for that? There are depression screens, and if your pediatrician has never had one or has never had you take one, definitely take one, so that at least we know what's the baseline. Because the worst situation is you or your child is depressed right now, and you're about to send them into a very stressful environment, not even knowing that. And if they're not, at least by taking the screen, you can now say, okay, this is great. You're not depressed. If any of these things come up, if you have trouble sleeping, if you're having trouble eating, if you have suicidal thoughts, if you can't concentrate, if you're getting these symptoms, we need you to come to us, doctors, or the student health center, or your parents, and talk to them about those feelings, because it is serious. And suffering or in by yourself can cause it to progress and escalate, and it can be really harmful and affect your grades. And oftentimes parents aren't finding out about this until the person has flunked out, and they're like, what are you doing with my money? I sent you to college. You're supposed to be doing great. Why aren't you doing well? And you're not talking about, it could be many things. It could be goofing off, not going to class, but it could also be anxiety, depression, or some mental health issues. The other thing that you can do is not only know the signs and symptoms and prepare, but to combat it. And one of the things one of our doctors just mentioned is having a balanced eating and exercise plan. And believe it or not, exercise helps you to be not only treatment for depression, but to avoid the symptoms of depression, because by exercising regularly, your body is releasing endorphins. So I encourage from day one, get involved in the gym, be active, not just for weight and for the appearances, but also for that mental balance and just overall well-being. So healthy eating, regular exercise, absolutely are a part of just a holistic health plan that you should discuss and know. Your mental health, your physical health, they go hand in hand, and it is extremely important. The sixth thing that you need to talk to your parents about or talk to your child about when it comes to having a healthy college experience is alcohol awareness. Okay, you're 17 or 18 going off to college, and the college drinking age is 21, right? So why are we even having this discussion? It makes no sense. Clearly, you are a good child and you are not going to drink. But the reality is, kids do drink, and they drink in their freshman year. Like, whether we want to accept it or believe it or not, I drank as a freshman. It is what it is. And here I am, medical doctor. I turned out fine. I turned out all right. I broke the rules, and I was the good girl, right? Always made A's and B's. Never had any issues with anything. Always studied hard. I wasn't going to call my mom and say, hey, mom, by the way, getting boozed. No, but I had seen, and now as a medical doctor, I realized how serious it could have been when, people pass out. Some of those people will wake up the next day with a bad hangover and life goes on. But some of those people may stop breathing and not make it to the emergency room if they're not aware that alcohol is a respiratory depressant and can have some really serious effects if you take it through too far. And as one of our doctors mentioned in the chat, if you aren't aware of what's going on, then people can take advantage of you physically as well. So have these conversations about drinking and how, avoid it. We don't want you to drink. Don't be like me. Don't drink. I'm not advocating freshmen drinking. But if you do drink, make sure you are safe. Say maybe you're transferring. You're a junior, a senior. You're doing things. You're not drinking before 21. That's great. But whoever, I don't care what age you are. I'm just talking about from a health perspective. If you drink, know your limits. Have a circle of friends that you stay together, you plan, and if anything goes wrong, maybe it's not you, maybe it's the friend that passed out, have a plan of action to get that person to care. Don't worry about, I'm going to get in trouble. There's no way my mom can find out about this, so I can't go seek help, because it's very important that if something goes too far, that you get help. And a lot of times people use alcohol not only for fun, but as a way to deal with stress, anxiety. That also can be a very serious issue. And these problems can start as early as college. And if you find yourself developing any of those habits as well, I want you to seek care. The last thing related to alcohol is do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive. Do not ever get behind a wheel after drinking. I remember in college, one of the football players, I don't know if he was drunk or not, but it was during, a Friday night, he ran into a tree and he died, and that was it, End of the story, show over, no more pursuing that degree, that career. Your future is gone. And so with Uber and Lyft, it just doesn't make sense. And if someone's drunk and trying to drive you, just don't go, try to stop them, take away their keys, but definitely if you can't, don't get in the car. I definitely remember riding in the car with someone in college that was so drunk, they pulled over, they're throwing up, and I'm still sitting there like a dummy and let them drive the rest of the way home. We make stupid decisions at that age, in that age range. So have these conversations with your child to say, look, you need to be able to be responsible for yourself and know when to say, this is enough. I remember guys flipping their cars in college, and thankfully walked away safe, but all of it was alcohol related, and you want to avoid these mistakes if you're going to college, and you want to have these conversations with your children to say, if this happens, tell me what you're going to do. And let them answer, because when you think about it beforehand, you're much less likely to be subject to the influence of others or to make that wrong decision in the heat of the moment. So the last thing for a healthy, safe college experience, my number 7, is just lots of love and hugs. They're going off to college. Sometimes we get so focused on this checklist. We got to get all of these things done. They're going off. We got to make sure this is in. Spend as much time with your parents, with your child as possible before they go off on this new adventure, this new journey. Just let them know how loved and special and amazing they are, because it's going to be a challenging time. They're going to meet new people, and to just have that foundation of knowing that they're able, they're amazing, and that this is going to be the best years of their lives, and hopefully a very healthy and happy time for them as well. So those are my 7 things. I'm sure there are lots more that I forgot. If you have any questions, please be sure to type them, even if it's after it's on my page. So I'll come back and I'll check. Do me a favor, share this with at least one college student, someone college bound, or the parent or grandparent of a college student, so that they can tune in. If you are currently enrolled in college or going off to college and something happens and you need a doctor, check out me and my colleagues and I at www.rowe, and that's ROWE, docs.com. We would love to take care of you, and the best part is you never have to leave your dorm room. You never have to leave campus. You can actually just do it right there. You can do it from anywhere, on your phone, on your laptop. You log on. It's like Skype. It's like FaceTime. It's the coolest thing ever. And in 2017, we're doing a college tour where we'll be going to colleges and universities throughout the country. We'll be talking about many of the health topics that I addressed here today and showing these campuses exactly how a virtual visit works. So if you're interested in having your college or future college be a stop on this tour, reach out to us at info@RoweDocs.com. Thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been great, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you soon.